A mother's scream echoes through the cold night air. The sound of rushing footsteps, the blinding lights of an ambulance, and a little girl's tearful voice calling out, "Mom, please wake up." Heartland fans weren't ready for what episode 2 delivered. Amy Fleming, the heart of the ranch and the soul of the family, suddenly collapses, leaving everyone in shock. The strong, calm woman we've always seen, holding everyone together, is now the one who needs saving. This is not just another emotional moment in Heartland. This is the turning point that could change everything for Amy and for Lyndy, who watches her mother fade from strength to silence. The day began like any other at Heartland Ranch. The soft orange sunrise stretched across the Alberta fields, touching every fence post and horse's mane with light. Amy was already up before dawn, her hands busy, her mind full. She moved through her morning like she always did, with quiet purpose and strength. There was no sign of what was about to happen. Ty's absence still hung heavy in her heart. But Amy had learned to carry that pain with grace. She had work to do, horses to train, and a daughter who looked at her like she could fix anything. Today, though, there was something different in Amy's eyes, a tiredness that went deeper than a sleepless night. She brushed it off. "I'm fine," she told Jack when he asked if she was overdoing it again. Jack just nodded, though the worry in his eyes said otherwise. As the morning went on, Amy helped a nervous horse settle down. Her voice was calm, her touch steady. Lyndy stood at the fence, watching her mother like she always did, with admiration and love. But the camera lingered on Amy's face. The smile was there, but faint. The shadows under her eyes told a different story. Inside the barn, Tim walked in, talking fast about upcoming rodeo plans and a sponsor who wanted Amy to appear at an event. She laughed it off, saying she didn't have time for fame or fancy shows. "I just want to be here with the horses," she said. The line felt simple, but it carried meaning, a reminder that Amy's heart had always been in this land, not in the spotlight. But then came a small, almost invisible moment. Amy's hand slipped on the reins. She blinked, dizzy for a second. Lyndy noticed it. "Mom," she said softly. Amy smiled again, brushing it off, saying she was just tired. Yet the unease grew. The episode's tone shifted, music slowed, the colors dimmed. It was as if the world was holding its breath. By midday, clouds rolled over Heartland. A faint wind stirred the grass. Amy went to help Jack fix the gate near the pasture. She laughed when he teased her about working too hard, but the laughter was cut short. Her vision blurred. The screen focused on her hand clutching the wooden post. Then silence. The thud of her body hitting the ground broke that silence like thunder. Lyndy screamed her name. Jack rushed forward. Tim's voice shouted for help. The horses stirred, whinnying nervously as dust lifted from the dirt road. The screen faded to black, leaving only the sound of a little girl crying for her mother. This was the moment everything changed. The strong, fearless Amy Fleming, lying still on the ground. As her family ran to her side, it was more than a health scare. It was a reminder that even the strongest hearts can stumble. Sirens cut through the quiet. Country air like a scream that wouldn't end. The flashing red lights from the ambulance painted the walls of Heartland Ranch in panic and fear. Inside, Amy lay motionless on the stretcher, her face pale, her lips trembling as the paramedics checked her pulse. Every second felt longer than the last. Jack stood frozen on the porch, his old hands shaking as he whispered prayers under his breath. "Come on, Amy. Don't you dare give up now," he said, his voice breaking. Tim paced back and forth, yelling at the paramedics to move faster, his rough cowboy voice cracking with fear. But the one who broke everyone's heart was Lyndy. She clutched her small stuffed horse to her chest, eyes wide and wet with tears, asking questions no one could answer. Why isn't Mom waking up? The camera followed Lyndy's tiny steps as she tried to follow the stretcher to the ambulance. Jack knelt beside her, holding her back gently, his face tight with pain. "They'll take care of her, sweetheart," he whispered. But even he didn't sound sure. The moment was Rono. Background music, no dialogue. Just the sound of Lyndy's cries fading as the ambulance door slammed shut. Inside the ambulance, Amy's hand twitched. The paramedic noticed, shouting. "She's responding, barely." Her pulse was faint, her breathing uneven. The camera zoomed in on her face, pale, sweat-soaked, fragile. For years, viewers had seen Amy as unbreakable, the woman who healed horses and hearts alike. But here, she was just human. Fighting for every breath, the drive to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and desperate whispers. Tim followed in his truck, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He wasn't just scared, he was guilty. Guilty for not noticing the signs, for pushing her too hard, for always expecting her to be the strong one. "Hang on, Amy," he muttered, eyes red, voice low. "We still need you." Back at the ranch, Jack tried to calm Lyndy. She sat on the couch, knees to her chest, staring out the window as the ambulance disappeared down the dirt road. Her voice was small, but sharp. "Is Mommy going to die like Daddy?" That one question shattered Jack's composure. He took a deep breath, holding her tight, but his eyes glistened with tears he refused to let fall. "No, sweetheart. She's stronger than anyone I know." The line was hopeful, but it cracked at the edges, heavy with doubt. Cut to the hospital. The doors burst open as Amy was rushed down the hallway. Nurses and doctors moved fast, their voices overlapping, BPs dropping. "Get the 4 in now." The camera didn't show Amy's face fully, only glimpses her hand falling limp, her hair brushing against the pillow, the monitor beeping in uneven rhythm. The atmosphere was suffocating, a mix of fear and urgency. Tim arrived moments later, demanding answers, his cowboy hat crushed in his hand. "What happened to her?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the sterile halls. The nurse tried to calm him, explaining they didn't know yet. Maybe exhaustion, maybe stress, maybe something deeper. But Tim didn't hear most of it. He was staring through the glass window at Amy, his daughter, lying still under the harsh hospital lights. The camera panned back to Jack and Lyndy as they arrived. Lyndy ran straight to the waiting area window, pressing her small hands against the glass. She didn't cry this time. She just watched, her face frozen in confusion and fear. That silence was louder than any scream, and then, for a brief second, Amy's monitor flatlined. The sound, one long, piercing tone, filled the room and echoed through the waiting hall. Jack's hat fell from his hand. Lyndy covered her ears. The nurse shouted, "Clear!" as the doctors rushed to bring Amy back. That's where the episode left the audience on the edge of their seat. Sami's fate uncertain. Her family shattered, and Lyndy's world breaking apart. The waiting room was too quiet. The hum of fluorescent lights, the rhythmic clicking of the wall clock, and the soft rustle of hospital curtains were the only sounds that filled the air. Lyndy sat in one of the hard plastic chairs, her small legs swinging back and forth. Her stuffed horse clutched tightly in her hands. Her eyes were swollen, her voice gone from crying. She wasn't just scared, she was breaking. Jack sat beside her, his cowboy hat resting on his knee, his face buried in his hands. Across the room, Tim stood by the window, staring out into the dark parking lot, pretending to be strong, but trembling inside. None of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. For years, Amy had been there, anchored the light that pulled them all together when things fell apart. And now, with her lying unconscious beyond that hospital door, everyone felt the same terrifying thought. What if she doesn't wake up? Lyndy turned to Jack. "Grandpa, if Mom's the one who fixes everyone, who's going to fix her?" Her voice was small, but the words hit like thunder. Jack looked at her, eyes glassy, trying to find strength he didn't have. He reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Sometimes," he said softly, "even the strongest people need someone else to hold them up."
Out.
"I want to go in there. I want to tell her to wake up." She stood up suddenly, her little boots echoing on the tile floor as she ran toward the hallway. Jack called after her, but she didn't stop. The camera followed her as she darted through the corridor, slipping past nurses, her hair flying, her tears unstoppable. When she reached the ICU door, she pressed her face against the glass window. Inside, Amy lay motionless, surrounded by machines and wires. For the first time, Lyndy saw her mother not as a hero, but as a fragile person, pale, still, and human. The sight shattered something inside her. She pounded the glass with her small fists, crying out, "Please, Mom, you can't leave me. I'll be good, I promise." Just wake up." A nurse gently pulled her back, trying to comfort her, but Lyndy fought against her arms. "She needs me," she cried. "Mom always says love heals everything." The line pierced the silence like a blade. It wasn't just a child's plea, it was a memory, echoing Amy's own words from past seasons. Tim arrived, his face twisted in guilt and heartbreak. He scooped Lyndy up, holding her tightly as she sobbed into his chest. "It's okay, baby," he whispered, his voice trembling. "She's strong. Just like you." Even he couldn't believe his own words. The camera lingered on his face, a man torn between being a father and a grandfather, trying to hold it all together when he was falling apart inside. Later, in the quiet of the WA, she began to draw her mom, the ranch, the horses, and a bright sun shining over them. In the corner, she wrote, "Wake up, Mommy. The horses miss you." It was the kind of innocence that only made the moment more painful. The shot pulled back, Jack asleep in the chair, Tim pacing restlessly, Lyndy still coloring with trembling hands. The clock ticked past midnight. The whole world outside moved on. But for the Heartland family, time had stopped. And then, the softest thing happened. A faint beep from the monitor inside Amy's room changed rhythm, steady, strong, alive. The nurse looked up, eyes widening. Lyndy lifted her head as if she felt it. A whisper escaped her lips. "She heard me." The camera faded to black, leaving that fragile hope hanging in the air, a child's faith, stronger than any medicine, in the days after the episode aired. The Heartland fandom went into overdrive. Social media feeds were flooded with freeze frames, slowed clips, and blink-and-doom-sit moments. Fans started whispering about something strange, scenes that didn't seem to appear in the official cut. People began calling them the leaked hospital moments. Whether they were early promos, deleted scenes, or raw production footage, no one knew for sure. But what they revealed changed how everyone saw Amy's collapse. One of the most talked about leaks showed a short, grainy clip of Amy lying in the hospital bed, but there was something eerie about it. The lights were dimmer, her face softer, and beside her stood a blurred figure. For a moment, viewers thought it was a doctor, until a voice was faintly heard saying, "It's not your time yet." Fans froze the frame, brightened it, and swore the silhouette looked like Ty. That single moment sent the fandom spiraling into theories. Was it a dream sequence? A hallucination? Or was it Heartland's subtle way of giving Amy one last connection with Ty's spirit? Another leaked snippet surfaced a day later, this time showing Lyndy in her bedroom at the ranch, clutching her mom's picture while whispering, "Don't leave me like Dad did." It wasn't part of episode 2's final edit. But the lighting, tone, and camera framing matched the show perfectly. Some fans believed it was part of an extended scene that was later cut for pacing. Others thought it was an intentional leak, a breadcrumb from the production team teasing Lyndy's emotional journey in the next episodes. A third clip, though never confirmed, became the most haunting. It supposedly showed Amy's eyes fluttering open for a moment while hooked up to machines. Her gaze turned toward the window where the morning light filtered in, and she whispered something inaudible. When fans enhanced the audio, many claimed she said, "Ty, I'm not ready yet." The video quality was shaky, almost too rough to be real, but it felt too emotional to be fake. Then came the behind-the-scenes leak from a crew member's Instagram story that was quickly deleted. It showed the hospital set, Amy lying on the bed, and young Lyndy's actress rehearsing a scene beside her, whispering lines that never appeared in the broadcast. Her line was, "If love can heal horses, maybe it can heal you too." The line broke hearts because it perfectly captured Heartland's message: hope, faith, and love's quiet strength, even in the darkest moments. The show's producers, when asked in interviews, refused to confirm or deny any of the leaks. One writer simply said, "Sometimes what's cut still tells a story, just not the one on screen." That single statement fueled endless discussions among fans. Some believed the leaks hinted at a spiritual arc for Amy, a connection between her and Ty beyond life and death. Others thought it was symbolic, that Amy's vision of Ty wasn't literal, but emotional, representing her inner fight to keep going. But the real reason these scenes resonated wasn't because of mystery or rumors, was because they reminded fans of why Heartland has lasted this long. It's not just about horses or ranch life. It's about the invisible bond between people who refuse to give up on each other. These leaked moments, real or not, captured that spirit perfectly. Amy caught between the world of the living and the memory of the man she loved, while her daughter's voice pulled her back. And maybe, just maybe, that's why those scenes felt so real. Because Heartland has always been about the moments that live between what we see and what we feel. Heartland has always been more than just a family drama. It's a story written in the language of emotion, nature, and quiet strength. Every frame of episode 2 speaks in symbols, whispering truths that words can't always say. The hospital lights, the silent ranch, the flickering heart monitor, each element carries a message about love, loss, and the fragile balance between life and faith. Let's start with the most powerful symbol, the horses. Throughout the episode, even when Amy is unconscious, shots of the horses running across the empty pasture are used again and again. It's as if the animals feel her pain, as if the ranch itself is mourning. The camera captures their wild movements under the storm clouds, restless, uneasy, and untamed. These horses have always reflected Amy's soul. When she's calm, they are too. When she's lost, they pace the fields in confusion. In this episode, their restlessness becomes a mirror of her struggle between holding on and letting go. Then there's the light. From the warm golden hues of the ranch morning to the cold blue tones of the hospital, light tells the story of Amy's fading and returning strength. Notice how, during her collapse, the sun disappears behind the clouds, leaving everything gray. But when her heartbeat returns later in the episode, a soft light leaks through the hospital blinds. It's subtle, almost hidden, but that faint glow symbolizes hope breaking through despair. Heartland has always used nature as a storyteller, and here, light becomes a silent prayer. Lyndy's drawing scene also carries deep symbolism. The crayon drawing of Amy, the horses, and the bright sun isn't just a child's coping mechanism. It's a visual metaphor for healing. The act of drawing, of bringing color back to a gray world, represents Lyndy's attempt to control what she can't understand. Her message, "Wake up, Mommy. The horses miss you," transforms from simple words into a bridge between innocence and strength. It shows that love, even when expressed through a child's trembling hands, can hold more power than any medicine. There's also a recurring sound, wind chimes. They first appear faintly outside the hospital window, and later, when Jack prays quietly for Amy's recovery, the same chimes echo again. In Heartland, wind has always been a symbol of presence, of spirits, of memory, of connection. Fans notice that the chimes ring right before Amy's heartbeat stabilizes, sparking theories that it represents Ty's unseen presence watching over her. Whether it's literal or not, the sound carries comfort. A reminder that love never truly disappears. It only changes form, and then comes the contrast of silence and noise. The scene where Amy's heart monitor flatlines is followed by a long moment of absolute stillness. No music, no dialogue, just quiet. That silence doesn't represent death. It represents the pause between life's beats, the fragile thread where faith is tested. When the monitor finally beeps again, the background fills with soft piano music, the same melody used in Season 6 when Amy helped a broken horse take its first steps again. It's poetic symmetry. The healer becomes the one who must be healed. Even Amy's clothing color carries meaning. In the first scene, she wears her classic blue denim jacket. Blue has always represented calm and control for her. But when she's in the hospital, she's wrapped in white purity, vulnerability, and rebirth. It's as if she's being stripped of her identity as a caretaker and being reminded of her humanity. By the end of the episode, as light returns, a faint reflection of her blue jacket appears again in a dream sequence, symbolizing her soul finding its way back. Heartland has always been about the quiet messages hidden beneath simple moments. In this episode, the symbolism isn't loud or obvious. It's soft, like a heartbeat under layers of emotion. It tells us that strength isn't about never falling. It's about finding the courage to rise again, even when you don't know if you can. And that's why episode 2 feels different. It's not just about Amy's body healing. It's about her spirit learning how to breathe again. Guided by the love of a daughter who refused to give up, the moment episode 2 ended, the internet exploded. Within hours, hashtag Heartland19X02 was trending across fan pages, Reddit threads, and emotional TikTok edits. Viewers weren't just talking, they were feeling. Heartland isn't the kind of show that thrives on shock value. It thrives on connection. And this episode struck a nerve deep in the hearts of longtime fans who have grown up with Amy Fleming. The reactions ranged from disbelief to heartbreak. One fan on Twitter wrote, "Amy has always been everyone's strength. Seeing her weak broke me in ways I didn't expect." Another fan's post read, "The way Lyndy said, 'Who's gonna fix Mom?' I've never cried this hard for a TV show in my life." TikTok became flooded with edits of Amy's collapse scene, set to soft piano versions of the show's theme song. Every cut, every close-up, every tear from Lyndy was replayed, slowed down, and reinterpreted thousands of times. But what truly caught fire were the theories. Fans began dissecting every frame, every shadow, every sound. Some were convinced the leaked hospital scene wasn't just artistic, it was spiritual. They claimed Amy's faint vision of Ty represented her being caught between life and death, a whisper from beyond reminding her that her time wasn't over. Others pointed out how the wind chimes outside the... And then came the community response, art, tributes, and messages of love. Fan artists began sharing watercolor portraits of Amy in the hospital, surrounded by ghostly images of Ty and the horses. Others wrote short poems and stories from Lyndy's perspective, imagining her thoughts through the night. Even longtime viewers who hadn't watched since Ty's passing came back. Drawn by the emotional gravity of this episode, one viral comment summed it up perfectly. Heartland isn't about the people we lose, it's about the love that stays behind. That sentiment became the heartbeat of the fandom conversation. Every discussion, every theory, every tear-filled video revolved around the same truth that Amy's journey was never just hers alone. It belonged to everyone who's ever loved, lost, and hoped again. On forums and YouTube reactions, fans debated what Amy's recovery would mean for future episodes. Would this event make her step back from her work and focus on herself for once? Would it push Lyndy into a new storyline of resilience and maturity? Some even predicted that Ty's presence in the hospital scene foreshadows Amy finally finding peace, not in forgetting him, but in learning to live fully again. The most beautiful thing about the fan response, though, was unity. It didn't matter if people had been watching since season 1 or just discovered the show. Everyone felt the same ache, the same hope, the same tearful connection. For a few days, the Heartland fandom felt like a family sitting in the same waiting room, hoping Amy would open her eyes. Because that's what Heartland has always done best. It brings people together. Not through spectacle or plot twists, but through the raw, shared emotion of loving something fragile and real. The episode closes not with noise, but with stillness, the kind of silence that carries both pain and peace. The morning sun creeps through the hospital window, painting everything in a soft gold. Amy lies there, her breathing steady, her hand now loosely holding the note Lyndy drew the night before. The crayon marks wake up, Mommy. The horses miss you.
Yes.
Rest against her chest like a heartbeat made of color. Slowly her fingers twitch. Her eyes flutter open. The beeping monitor steadies into a calm rhythm. And just like that, the woman who holds the heart of Heartland comes back to us. Outside, Jack stands near the window, watching the sunlight pour in. He removes his hat and whispers, "Welcome home, Amy." It's not loud, not dramatic, just a simple moment of love finding its way through the cracks of fear. Tim walks in behind him, resting a hand on his shoulder. For once, he doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. Sometimes, silence says everything. Back at the ranch, the scene shifts. The camera glides over the fields, the horses galloping freely again, no longer restless. The wind carries the sound of Lyndy's laughter echoing faintly in the distance. It's soft, real, and full of life. Heartland isn't just showing a recovery, it's showing rebirth. Lyndy sits by the fence later that evening, the sun setting in streaks of orange and rose. Amy, still weak but standing, walks toward her. The little girl runs to her mother, wrapping her arms around her waist. Amy kneels, pulling her close. No dialogue, no music, just the sound of the wind and the creak of the old wooden gate. It's as if the whole ranch breathes again. This is what Heartland has always been about, the quiet moments that heal. Not miracles, not grand speeches, but the stillness between heartbreak and hope. Episode 2 reminded every viewer that even heroes fall. Even the strongest hearts need rest. And even when it feels like the light has gone out, love finds a way to guide it back. As the camera pans out, we see the Heartland house standing tall against the dusk sky, lights glowing warmly inside. The same house that's seen joy, grief, laughter, and loss, standing as it always has, not untouched by pain, but unbroken by it. A faint voiceover from Amy echoes softly in the background. Words that feel both like a reflection and a promise. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't fought in the ring or the field. They're fought inside us. But no matter how dark it gets, love is the light that leads us home. The screen fades to black. The Heartland theme plays quietly, almost as a whisper. Text appears, dedicated to everyone who keeps going, even when it hurts. Finally, the narrator's voice returns, calm, emotional, sincere. Heartland Season 19, Episode 2 will be remembered not just for Amy's fall, but for her rise, for showing us that healing isn't just surviving. It's remembering why we choose to keep fighting. Then, a gentle pause. The screen fades to the channel's end card. Do you think Ty's presence was real? Or was it Amy's heart reminding her to stay? Let's talk in the comments below, and don't forget to hold on to hope, just like Amy did. The music swells, soft piano and wind chimes, and the video fades out completely.